This short instructional and demonstration video uses as one of its central artifacts or exhibits Nicholas Carr's Atlantic article entitled, "Is Google Making Us Stupid?" You can access the article at the link listed here on the screen. Reading Carr's article in advance of this video will facilitate your understanding and your engagement with the video instruction that follows. So if you've not read it yet, pause the video here and then return to this point and begin again. So, over the next few weeks, you'll be engaged in drafting and composing a research or source-based text intended for a public audience. We encounter researched or source-based articles or opinion pieces more often than we may at first realize. They appear in our local newspapers, on local television newscasts, in professional newsletters or journals, and periodicals like The Atlantic or newspapers like The New York Times, and even on internet blogs. In every case, these texts engage their subjects as the next contribution in an ongoing conversation. Some texts will join the conversation by contesting previous statements, others will acknowledge and affirm previous statements, and still others may call for abandoning the conversation altogether, and still others will seek to turn the conversation toward new considerations or understanding. The research that informs these texts may not appear in the same formal manner we recall from our high school or college writing courses. The conventions for citation or bibliography and acknowledgement or attribution in most public texts differ from context to context and genre to genre, so be careful to watch for these. But the research and the rhetor's employment of that research to leverage an argument for a particular rhetorical purpose are nonetheless relevant to the success of the text. So let's take a quick look at one example that demonstrates how one author, Nicholas Carr, engages previous voices in his research-based text. Carr's 2008 essay, "Is Google Making Us Stupid?" appeared in The Atlantic. Carr is writing for an informed public, and some might argue an academic audience, in a highly respected venue. Yet as you review Carr's article, you'll find neither page references nor a bibliography. Carr's online version does include hyperlinks to some of his source materials, or to Amazon.com or IMDb. What you will find in Carr's article are explicit references to, and a few quotations from, and attributions of ideas to their sources that Carr is engaging in conversation. So let's take a look at a few of these. Carr begins his article with a reference to Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, making a kind of connection between Hal, the computer in that film, and his own sense of this neural remapping that he's experiencing. So the connection here is a kind of comparison, if you will. So he's using a source material as a means of making connection between himself and a text from popular culture. He also then relates his own experiences to those of two of his colleagues, Scott Karp and Bruce Friedman, also bloggers who are very much interested in media as well as computers. So he makes this connection, noting that he, like Karp and Friedman, experiences these same sensations. At the same time that he notes the significance and value of both Karp's and Friedman's opinions and experiences, he acknowledges, as he says here, that anecdotes alone don't prove much. So he's at once using them as examples, but then also using them as a way of pivoting to a stronger argument that he then goes on to make. So he's using the examples and then also leveraging them to make an even more critical point. He does this then as he moves on to referencing the work of a number of important scholars. For example, he moves on to citing Marianne Wolf, whom he describes as a developmental psychologist at Tufts University and the author of a book on science and reading, as well as the brain. So you can see here then that he's using Wolf in a way to establish his own ethos and to establish his own argument. He's aligning himself not just with friends like Karp or Friedman or bloggers, but with scientists. He does this again in a subsequent paragraph where he cites Alan Turing. And here he's citing a mathematician from 1936. Now this is a really critical point for me as I read this, because what I'm recognizing here is that Carr's point and the kinds of conversations that he's entering have been ongoing for decades, if not longer. The citation of Turing is also critical because he does hold such a prominent place in the history of science and of computer science in particular. Again, I'm giving you just a few examples here, and the last one I really want to point out to you before I move to the close of my explanation of some of the elements of Carr's piece is his reference to Plato and the Phaedrus. And again, what's interesting to me here in Carr's use of the Phaedrus is that he's really showing us the breadth and depth of his understanding. So we see Plato engaging in the same conversation that we see Carr entering, Turing, Wolff, and all of these others along the way. And so it's a substantial conversation. He's not beginning the conversation, nor is he ending it. He's simply joining it. My goal here is to illustrate through Carr's text how a highly skilled writer and researcher uses sources rhetorically, as background material or as examples or exhibits to demonstrate a point, or as touch points from which to craft or support his argument. Over the next few days, as you're considering your subject and beginning research, think strategically about how you'll use sources, whether to enhance your argument or ethos or create powerful images or examples for your audiences, just to name a few. If you'd like to spend a bit more time examining how published authors used sources in their persuasive texts, take a look at the examples listed here. These are also listed in the prompt for assignment 4.